Welcome back to part 2 of building the thermal detonator. Before we start, just like to say that when I originally built the first thermal detonator that I did about a year ago, I used a sketch from Jim and Joe's Circus. A link is which I'll put down in the description below. Watch his video. Great how he does the sketch. I'm no expert at doing this. I'm still learning how to do this. But it's great watching him how to do it, and it's his sketch that I'm using. So go to his website, download the sketch, that's where you'll get all this from. There's a selection of pictures, as you can see here, which I've done Fritzing diagrams, all of which are again in the description below for you to download. So let's get cracking on and doing the electronics part. This is the 9-volt battery cable. Now when you place this in the housing, just make sure which way the battery is going. You're going to need the USB chargeable end at the bottom, so it's showing through like that, and obviously just make sure that the which way the battery cable will go in. That way you can cut and adjust the cable to size. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to splice in the white positive speaker cable into the positive on the battery cable. I've now spliced in the positive side of the speaker cable into the positive part of the battery connector. One thing I have done, obviously we're going to connect this to the battery before we connect it to the board, is I've cut any excess cable off just to stop anything from shorting out. So that's that. The next stage is to make the amplifier. As you can see here in the picture, we have a PN2222A transistor. Now on the transistor, make sure that you've got it's in a semicircle. Hold it this way around, and obviously just here you will have the 470 resistor to the center. We'll have the speaker cable to the right leg and the negative to the left leg. So I'll go ahead and solder these, and I'll be back in a moment. Here you can see that I've now soldered the cables to the transistor. You can see them here. As you can see, it goes that way around, and you can see to the left hand you've got the negative cable, to the right hand you've got the speaker cable, and the red cable will obviously attach to the board. So the next stage I'm going to do there is I'm going to put some heat shrink cable to stop these from shorting out, and I'll be back in a moment. Right, now we've wired up the cables that we need. We're going to need a switch. It might be worth just seeing whether the switch fits. I had to sand this down slightly in order for the switch to be placed in. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to connect the battery connector to the battery, and then this will need to be placed inside. Okay. The negative cable needs to go through where the battery switch. Leave yourself enough room there, because obviously we've got the speaker attachment to go in here as well, so just keep that fairly loose there as well. So here, as you can see, we're going to put the black cable of the amplifier through to where the switch is, and along with the extra black cable we've got, we're going to cut to size and solder these to the switch. So I'll be back in a moment. Right, I've now soldered the cables onto the switch. So on the end one, we've got where the battery negative goes. The amplifier black cable goes to the center one, and spliced in onto that and connected is a spare cable here, which will go to the ground on the board. The next stage will be to fit a couple of screws into here, and then we're ready to fit the board. I've now attached the switch with 2 screws, and I've actually put it in the off position, so there's no risk of the battery shorting out until I've connected the cables. Now the motherboard housing just clips over into the 2 slots like that. You can, or I will, put a little dab of glue in there once I've finished wiring up the motherboard, just to make sure this is firmly in place. So the next stage is to program the motherboard. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to download the Arduino IDE from the main home page. Click onto the software tab, and here you can see the latest Arduino IDE. Pick which platform you're using, download and install. Right, once you've installed the Arduino IDE, if you open the program up, as you can see, mine already has the sketch installed. If it hasn't and it gives you a blank page, just click on the file, open, navigate to where your sketch is, click on it and open it up. Now here you will see the sketch is opened up. To make sure that the sketch will work, first thing we need to do is to go into the tools, and you need to make sure that you've clicked your Arduino Pro Mini board, and obviously here just make sure you've picked either the 5-volt version or the 3-volt version, whichever one you have bought. I'm using the 5-volt version at the 328. The 3.3 volt version does work. I would suggest that you use the 328p rather than the 168p. These are the older versions, but most ones that you buy now will be the 328p version. Now once you've done that, you need to test to make sure that the verify button, which will now compile the sketch, to make sure that you've got all the arrays there. As you can see, mine's telling me that mine is okay. Now when I first did this, I really did have a lot of problems, because it did tell me that there are a lot of things missing and wasn't being downloaded. Now, to do this, you've got, it says here, include PCM and the SPI. If for some reason it's coming up that these aren't installed, the best thing to do here would be to click on the Manage Libraries, and this will open up the library section. It's just obviously looking at my list of arrays that I have. Now these are the arrays that you can actually install into the IDE. If for some reason, let's say you haven't got the PCM and it's saying it's not there, just type the PCM in, hit return, and it should take you directly to where the array will be. As you can see here, mine is installed. If it's not, you just need to install it, and then obviously the program will then include it. This literally took me days to work out how to do this. As I say, I am no expert at all. The next stage will be, once you've done that, obviously run the verification again to make sure that it's loading up properly. Once everything's loading up, you will then need to upload it to the board, which I will show you next. And here we are with the Arduino Mini Pro. It comes in a packet like this, and you'll find that you've got the Arduino Mini Pro board, and obviously it comes with the connectors for attaching it to a breadboard or other things. Now, you're not going to need these. One thing that you are going to need, the Arduino, as you can see, does not come with a USB port to program it. So you are going to need one of these, an FTD1232 board. This will program the Arduino Mini Pro board. The other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a USB cable, one to put into your computer, the other one to connect to the FTD board. So we'll go ahead and connect that right now. So the first thing we do now is we will connect the computer to the FT board. Just allow the computer to recognize the board, and then before we get to program this, you need to open the Arduino IDE program, as I showed before. Make sure that it's recognizing the Arduino Pro Mini, which you will see at the bottom screen just here. Open up the sketch, and we are ready to program it. Now, the first thing we do is others will put cables on there, but if you attach the board, I tend to hold this in place so you get a good connection. And then what we're going to do now is going to hit the upload button. Now, when we hit the upload button, you will see down here it's compiling the sketch, and it tells you how long it is taking. You can see it's flashing on the board. And it'll give here uploading. And then it stops once it's uploaded, and you can see here on the computer it says done uploading. And once it's done that, we can then take the board off, and that is your board programmed. Okay, so the next stage is to attach the board to the plate. First thing you must do is to make sure that the board is the right way round. The cutout section here, which is where the lights will be going, you need the lower numbers facing this cutout area here. It's going to make it so much easier to wire up. Now, to attach this board to the plate, I'll be using just a double-sided tab, and just carefully make sure that you don't cover the holes where you're going to be soldering, so that put it on there. we do is we just adhere that like that, just push down, and there it is attached. One of the other things I've prepared myself for, which is the negatives for the 3 front lights. I've just wired in the cable here, and as you can see I've put a 470 resistor between the 2 cables. This will obviously attach or solder to the board, and these will be the for the 3 lights. The next stage, I'll be attaching the positive battery connector to the raw, the black ground cable to the ground next to the raw, and the other red cable, which is for the amplifier, to number 11. So I will go ahead and get that done, and I'll be back in a moment. And here it is all wired up. I did glue down the switch from the battery to the board there. I have tested the board now, because once this is done you can actually turn it over, switch it on, and you can see you've got power to the board, so you know that it's okay. If you wanted to test to see whether the sketch is working or not, since you've attached the amplifier, if you get your speaker here, obviously make sure which way the positive end goes, and if we was to connect the 2 there, you can hear that it's working. So since then I've gone ahead with gluing this board holder down to the base, and I'm now ready to finish wiring all the rest of the wires ready for the lights to be put on. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. And here we have the wires wired up to the Arduino board. Looks a bit like spaghetti junction at the moment. There is a diagram in the description below this video, which I've loaded on so you can actually see where all of the cables belong to. The negative side of the 3 lights at the front has been glued down into the, well, you can just see it, get the light in there, you can see it's just been glued down there, as well as the cable for the red light. I've put the resistor on the positive end of the red light because the negative cable is split into 2 that operates the switch as well. So that's all the cables in place. These 3 these 3 cables here are the positive cables for the lights. Obviously this one is the positive cable for the red light, and then you've got the cables here. One of these is for the red light, and the other 3 cables, the black, red and the green cable, is for the lever switch. So that's connected all there, and now we just need to connect the lights and the switch to it. I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what we need. Here are the LEDs that I'll be using. I get these from a company called Bright Components. They're flat-headed LEDs. I know a lot of people use yellow ones, which I've got, but I do like to use the white LEDs with this one. I think it looks so much better with those. Now these are 3mm, and as you can remember, on the center ring they were 5mm. So I managed to get these little tiny 5mm standoffs with a 3mm center, and they fit absolutely perfect in the LED, and then once they're glued on, that'll fit perfectly into the center ring. The red LED again is from Bright Components, and again it's a flat-headed one. Now when I wire this up, before I wire it up, I'll be using, in the dome, I'll be using a chrome bezel, and on these you get a little plastic lug which I shall fit. Anyway, it'll fit in there, and then once that's on there, it'll fit into there and hold the LED in place. There'll be a little red lens going on there, which I'll show you in the next video when we make the dome. The other things that you're going to need, all of these will be in the description below, is the switch. This particular switch fits perfectly into the, sorry, the camera's moving. This switch fits perfectly into the dome. You can, these ones are quite expensive. You can use smaller ones or a different one. You're just going to have to make sure it's glued in. But again, this particular one I've bought with the feet going out sideways. You can get them sticking straight out. If they are, then you're going to need to bend them, because again, there's not a lot of room once all this is put together. So you're going to need that. Now the speaker will fit into the speaker holder like that. You can either glue that in, or as I tend to do, I tend to put a bit of glue gun around here just to hold everything in place. Obviously when you do this, just make sure which way round you've got the positive end for when you wire this up. So I'm going to go ahead and connect all these pieces together, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we finished wiring the lights and the switches to the cables. Got a couple of pictures here that I'm just showing you. This is with everything attached minus the speaker housing, just so you can actually see how it looks. And here it is with the speaker housing attached. I've put some hot glue along the side just to hold everything all in place so it's not moving about, and as you can probably see, I've stuck some hot glue just to hold the speaker in place as well. So the next stage that we need to do is to the ring that we had, and then this will fit like that. So we've got this, and the next thing, you'll probably need to use a little pair of tweezers, but again, putting the lights in order of how they are on the circuit board is to try and get these into the holes like this. And then what I'll do is I will then just put a little bit of liquid glue down the bottom there to hold everything in place. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly do that, and I'll be back in a moment. And here are the lights in place. All I've done is I've just used a little bit of Tamiya Extra thin cement with the brush, and I'll just, whether you can see it, just put the brush down there just to let the glue take its course, and it just holds the lights in place. And here it is. So we can just see how it works. So we can flick the switch on, and if we as we take the switch off, and it finishes, and then obviously the kill switch, just make sure that's turned off, and that's the electronics and the center ring complete. The next video will be to make the domes, so hopefully see you guys soon.